whenever I get to interview someone who I feel is quintessentially underrated, I think for me it really makes me happy and makes me
Yeah.
excited. And I think one such incredible talent, I think, is Shweta Basu Prasad, who has done superbly in Jubilee on Prime Video. So, Shweta, firstly, thank you so much for taking out the time to join me on Filme Shilmy.
Thank you so much, Anuj, and what a sweet introduction. Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
Right. Now, look, I think your character in Jubilee, Ratna Das, is someone we have to talk about.
Sure.
I think it's the dilemma that she's faced with, where she is
Mm,
seeing the oppression that the husband is going through, but yet also seeing that other side to him too.
mm.
When it came to a very complex character like this, how tough was it for you to get into that mindset?
So Ratna is like, there was comfort and there was also, of course, a lot of working on it because she's really simple and simple is really tough. And also, I mean, she's a Bengali character, so I've seen women like her in my family. I associated Ratna very much with an aunt of mine, and the way she is, and very polite, and sings the Ravindra Sangeet, and very fond of poetry and cooking, and takes care of everyone at home. So Ratna definitely reminded me of that aunt,
Hmm,
and most women that I've seen in life. The complexity was that, we live in a generation where women without ambition are not considered strong.
true.
And that's a problem. Because the homemakers, the one with no jobs, who are not, to put in words, they don't bring money to the family. They are sometimes considered not very valuable, which is so heartbreaking because to be a homemaker, to be a mother, to be, that to be in the shadows and to be that pillar in the background is a lot of work. Whether you're doing that as a wife or a mother or a sister or a daughter. And I think I wanted to celebrate those women through Ratna
Mhm.
because we live in a generation where if you're bold and if you have your vices and if you have ambitions and if you're louder than the rest, you're considered a strong woman. It's a misconception. I think that comes the the dignity, the grace. In fact, the strongest women I've known are very dignified, are very graceful, are very soft spoken. They smile a lot. So I
Yeah.
don't think one needs to associate what they do with the kind of strength they have. So I wanted to sort of shake that a little bit with Ratna's character. And I'm glad I had sort of, a lot of freedom to do so, to express myself as Ratna. Uh, Vikram is a fantastic director, and he also gives a lot of space to his actors, which was wonderful.
It's wonderful you said about expressing yourself. And I think if we look back, I mean, what, 21 years ago, you did Makdee. Oh, Papad Wale is still a bop. I still listen to that. Okay. And yeah, I mean, I think there's so many memories and nightmares that we all have. I think from
I
watching
love how you say memories and oops, nightmares.
it's kind of a very weird sort of borderline how we kind of yeah, it's almost like the Goonies, what the Goonies and all these kind of films and the Goosebumps series what was for the West. I think we have Mercury, which is great. But when you kind of look back at the freedom of expression, जैसा हम कहते हैं, or that bebarkness in that sense. You definitely have played characters, I think, throughout your career, which certainly, voice that. I think for me, one of the most notable performances of yours, which I literally just told you before we began our interview, was actually Tashkent Files. I thought your performance was incredible, and I think I'm so glad that you got that opportunity and you were
Thank
given that
you.
platform. But do you feel like, subconsciously that, you've always been this very, you know, a person who is never one to hold your opinions and your voice back, and do you think that's what's translated into your decisions in the roles you choose?
I don't think so. I think who I am as a person and what I do on screen are two very different people. And I'd like to keep it that way. Yes, the choices that I make in my characters and the stories that I pick, sure, I mean, I need to be convinced that I need to be convinced. For me, I'm an audience first and an actor after that. So I'm a movie buff. I love films. Okay.
Yeah.
I love binge watching series. I do attend the film festivals and I do go for the special screenings and I do read the reviews and all that. So for me, it's very important when I'm working on something to ask myself, do I want to watch this? And if I want to watch it is when I work on something, because if I don't want to watch it, I don't want to waste your time,
Yeah.
you know, you know. And for me, if anything that influences the decision, of course, is that. But I don't think I pick up characters consciously because they sort of are in the same they because I have opinions or I
Mm,
have certain way of viewing the world. No, no,
right. Hmm. Yeah, no,
not
absolutely.
necessarily. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, no.
going by that, then I'll never pick up a gray character, because then
True.
morals come into place, and then you have all those things. So no,
Yeah, I would like to hope that you're not a murderous queen in real life, huh?
just Makri.
Yeah.
That's all the nightmare you get.
Absolutely. Oh God. Yeah, no, and rightly said as well. I think, again with Jubilee, I think it's so well done because what
Mm,
it does, especially if we look at Siddharth's character, your character, even Apar's as well, of course. It's wonderful how we have like kind of outsiders really sort of playing these roles which kind of introspect on the capitalist society at that point in time.
mm.
So when you were playing a role like Ratna, I mean, or even characters like this, do you feel like how has it impacted the way you view perhaps the industry as well, largely now and even then too?
I am an outsider who grew up in the industry. I've been here since I was 10, and it's my extended family, if I may say so. Um, uh, I have been getting work very regularly. And there's a dialogue in Jubilee as we speak of the series where Jamshed says, success is a parameter that we set for ourselves. And it's the freedom of choice and the kind of work I want to do when I want to do is my definition of success. And I think that's the answer to your question.
Fair enough. Very
But
well.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think there's definitely some jadoo in Jamshedpur. Because I think obviously we've had Priyanka, we've had Adarsh, now we've obviously
yeah.
got you yourself, and I'm sure there must be so many other actors as well who have come from there.
There's
But
R. Madhavan, there's
our
Imtiaz
Madhavan,
Ali. Yeah.
so many, so many. It's just wonderful to know how we have such cherished artists that have come from there. But I think, at the age of 10, Makdi happened for you. Again, it
Mm,
was a
mm.
very very dynamic character for even a child artist to play because you're playing a double role. At that point in time, what was your mindset like when you were working on that film, working with such massive actors? I mean, cherished thespians like Shabana ji, like Makarand Deshpande. What went through your mind at that point? And when you look back at that, how do you kind of reflect on that experience?
I didn't know them at all. As a 10-year-old, I turned 11 on set. And in fact, the Vikram's mom, Deepa auntie, was the line producer on Makri, and she's the producer on Jubilee now.
Oh, wow.
So we had, 20 years of two different projects there. But I turned 11 on Makri's set, and I didn't know. I'm sorry, I didn't know who was Shabana ji. I knew who was Charisma Kapoor and who was Kareena Kapoor and Preeti Zinta and Urmila Matondkar and the award ceremony and the stars performances. But I grew up in a family where my mom's a movie buff. My dad had his own theater group. He's done acting, and my dad had his own theater group, and he, did acting and direction diploma from Shri Ram Centers, Delhi. And in Jamshedpur, he had his own theatre group that I was never part of. Actively as an actor, I was never on stage. But I always saw reading and blocking and movie discussions and art, festivals and all of that. And the name Shabana Azmi always came up, but I didn't really watch any of her works because I was just 10. So before Makri, my mom made me watch Masoom, Shekhar Kapoor's Masoom.
Wow.
And she was like, see, that's Shabana ji. You're going to be working with her on this film. And you see that little girl, that's Urmila Matondkar. She grows up to be Rangila. And I'm like, oh, you can grow up and become an actor as well.
Right.
So, so that's it. And then I met Shabana ji on set, and she looked nothing like Shabana ji from Masoom. And I was like, what? She was in that witch getup and all of that, but she was so sweet. And I remember her very fondly. She was, an amazing co-star. Um, I was, because I didn't know the body, her body of work. Maybe I wasn't very hesitant, and I was just with her like I was with everyone else on set. I didn't know who Gulzar Saab was. I think the most intelligent question I asked him when I was 11 was, "Why do you wear white all the time?" And
A
you know,
legit question, though. I mean, to be fair.
so yeah, I think I realized who these people are and what Makdee is and what a national award is much later in life. And I'm grateful to my parents that they let me discover that on my own and not sort of tell me all about it when I was 11. I'm really happy because I discovered them through their works. I've seen so many more Shabana ji films now. Like during the lockdown, I was doing this exercise where I'd pick one filmmaker or one actor, and the entire week I would just watch their works and write essays about it. I watched some 7 back-to-back Shabana Azmi films, and I wrote 16 pages of essays on her.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I'm like, I worked with her, and I don't even remember. It was so long ago, and I was so young. I really have to work with her again. But yeah, that was Makri. Makri was a blast. It was like picnic.
Yeah, I can imagine as well. I mean, if you look at that picnic then to now, I guess, also making your directorial debut in Retake, right? Which is obviously,
That's right.
it stars Anupam Kher sir in the lead, and of course, it's the selection for New York Indian Film Festival, which I think is so huge. So what particularly made you decide to direct this short film in particular, and why the short genre in
Hmm.
particular?
Mhm. All right. So no, I made a documentary film about 10 years ago, which was about the Indian classical music. And yeah, so that was an interview-based documentary. It was, I think, when I was still in college, and I'm a student of classical music, Hindustani music myself. I learned the sitar. I play the sitar. And I've grown up in a family with a lot of literature and classical music. So I just set out to make that, and it has interviews of Pandit Shiv Kumar Sharma and Hari Prasad Chaurasia ji, Shubha Mudgal, A.R. Rahman, Dr. L. Subramaniam, a lot of other people, and it premiered at Kala Ghoda Arts Festival, and then it was on Netflix for 3 years. It was commissioned for 3 years, and now maybe I'm thinking of re-releasing it. So that was my association with direction of making something. I've always had a flair of writing poems or short stories. And in 2018, I wrote Retake Story, which was then called The Interview. And yeah, and I just wrote it and I narrated it to my mom. And I still remember that evening. I think we went for a movie, and I told her that I'm thinking of developing this as a maybe a script. Maybe I'm going to write a screenplay and develop this and give it to a friend or somebody to direct it. And my mom is like, you're going to direct this. I said, no, I'm so happy in front of the camera. I'm an actor. What are you saying? I don't know anything. And she's like, trust me, the way you narrated the film, I could see it visually, and you should direct this. Think seriously about it.
Right.
And then that was that. And then in 2020, during the lockdown, I wrote the screenplay.
Mm,
I worked at Phantom Films as a script consultant for a year
right.
and a half, where I read a script a day,
Mhm.
and synopses and treatment notes every day, and I attended workshops. So that's helped me a great deal as an actor also, by the way, to just
Mhm.
assess sort of scripts. So in 2020, I wrote retakes, screenplay, and dialogue. So, and then I sent it to my friends, got great feedbacks. Then a producer friend said he'd like to invest in it, and that's when I was like, somebody wants to invest in it. And then I sent the script to Kher Saab, and he called me up, and we spoke for about half an hour, and he told me he loved it. And then applause came on board, and I'm really grateful how things just all fell in place. And I can't even believe that it's done. It's like
Yeah.
I can't believe it. Yeah. Why short film? The second part of your question, why short film? So see, nobody decides what minute the film would be at, right? You write a story, and that story could be 5 pages, 50 pages, 150 pages, or 500 pages. If it's 500 pages, make a series. If it's 100 pages, make a feature. If it's 10 pages, make a short film. But it has to be a complete story. So you can't decide कि मैं short film बनाऊंगा and then write a 10-page story. You write it first and then you see where it falls. You know, anything under 30 minutes or 40 minutes is considered a short film. Anything over that is a featurette. Anything over an hour, 60 minutes or whatever is a feature film. Anything over that is then, you know, you sort of make it into a mini series or you flesh it out to be a series. So you have to first get the story. So my story was about 25, 30 pages on paper.
Yeah.
So it lands in the short film category, not because I wanted to make a short film.
Acha, acha, right. So you know the story. If you could talk to me a bit about the story as well. Again, you know, where did the inspiration for this come from? I know you said you wrote it in 2018.
Yeah, wow. Can I be honest? You know, I wrote this really late at night. I think it was around 1 a.m. And I don't know, I just had this sudden rush to write this story down. I don't know what inspired me to write this. I think maybe I'm a huge Rishikesh Mukherjee Basu Chatterjee fan.
Oh, me too.
Like I love, you know, 80s parallel cinema, and especially Rishikesh Mukherjee. And he was my introduction to, you know, films that way. So I loved Khubsurat and Golmaal, and I love the simplicity of those films, you know, the music and the niceness and, you know, good people who are doing good things. And I just wanted to write maybe the style I think inspired me. I don't know. But it's an actor's story, so I think somewhere the actor inside me sort of wrote this.
Right. But
Good
you know,
question though. I never thought about it. Really did not. Because it's like a poem, you know, when you or a sketch, you know, you don't know what inspires you to sketch something. You just pick up a pen, you find a page, and you just start sketching. Or you know, you think of you. There's a thought. You don't know what has inspired the thought, and you just start writing a poem. It was the same with this story, and I was just writing it as a story. It was a one pager that developed to a full page story, then screenplay, now film.
this kind of was like almost like a J.K. Rowling moment, wasn't it? Because I
It
suddenly
revealed itself
rush.
to me.
It's like a rush. I can just literally imagine it being like a film scene where like classical.
If I make $1 million on this, I'm going to remember this interview forever.
Well, then this would have definitely been an exclusive because everyone would have heard it here first, guys. Right. No, but you know, again, Shweta, like it's very fascinating, you know, because whenever I interview actors who began as child, you know, as child artists, I think if we look back, even it's quite ironic we were speaking about Harry Potter, you know, because even like if we look there, Daniel Radcliffe, you know, Emma Watson, Rupert Grint, I mean, you know, they're great actors and they're doing some wonderful work. But जब वो एक छाप पड़ जाती है उस पॉपुलर कैरेक्टर की तो बहुत मुश्किल होता है उस कैरेक्टर को
True,
ब्रश ऑफ करना और एक अपने आप पे एक आइडेंटिटी पेश करना. So for
true.
you, did you ever face any kind of pressures or burdens? I think having to shred off Chunni and Munni from Makdee and trying to make your identity heard, or do you think you've been lucky that way that you haven't had?
No, I think I've been lucky. I would never shed off Chunni and Munni off me. I love Makri. But you know, Makri was 21 years ago. And like, I mean, since you compared it to Harry Potter was an ongoing series. So, you know, they were stuck with it, maybe with that image. And yes, when I think of Daniel Radcliffe, my first image is Harry Potter and not the Swiss Army man,
Yeah.
because your association with Harry Potter has been so much more stronger and longer, because it was like what, 7, 8, 9 films now of the same character, and you know you're growing with that character. But I think Makni was a standalone one film, and then there was also an Iqbal, which already sort of breaks Makni's image.
Oh yeah,
And then I've
a
had a
great film.
huge, thank you. And then I've had a huge sort of a break, living my life, completing my education, being behind the camera, working at Phantom making a documentary and stuff. And now, uh, no, not really, not really. I think all the works that I've been doing, especially on OTT in the last 2, 3 years,
Mm.
they've been very much on their own, and none of them really have influenced anything. If anything, I think people do talk about my latest work a lot more. Like I remember a lot of my OTTs thanks to Tashkent Files.
Mm.
And then something that I've signed on now is thanks to something I did last year, and that's their reference. So I think people stick to present day work more than anything. It's great, and I would never share out Makdee's image of me. I love Makdee.
Oh, bless you. No, I think yeah, there's a lot of sentimental value attached. I think when you do begin.
Yeah, yeah, but I know what you mean, because I do see a lot of child actors, especially in India. I think abroad in Hollywood or other industries in globally as well, where as soon as you're teenagers, you sort of have that pressure to wear the lipstick and look like a grown up.
Mm.
And I did see that with a lot of child actors in India as well, where you suddenly like dressier and all of that. But that's when you're looking for work. That's when you're looking for work. I don't remember. I mean, of course, I've dressed up for meetings and auditions, but much later in life, I think in my mid 20s or something. Um, yeah, yeah. But maybe that does happen. I'm sure that happens.
Me, I'm very drawn towards this sense of innocence and then how one loses that innocence and then becomes experienced in life. I'm a big
Right,
fan of those sort of concepts, which I think Bhansali sir often, presents in his movies.
right.
But as you've worked in this industry from a very young age, do you kind of feel like I mean, subconsciously perhaps, had to mature quicker and become more wiser than perhaps, what your age sort of quantifies, maybe?
Could be. Maybe you're right. But I don't know. I think I was technically very aware about cinema. Wisdom in that sense. I mean, I remember. I'll give you an example. Right after Makri's release, um, a lot of my friends in school asked me, "How were you two people?" Because you playing a twin character, and they
Mm.
asked me to explain it to them technically, and I could articulate that. I could actually explain it to them. I was like, see, there was a camera, and they had put a black paper on one side of the frame, and then I did Chunni's part, then I went to change, and then they changed, and this and that, and then they sort of, and we shot it on film. We shot Makri on film, so I know that it was sort of edit works that way. And in whatever little knowledge that I had, I did explain it to my friends. And after that, every film that I viewed, I saw it very, very with a technical lens.
Mhm.
So even if I'm watching the Dragon's Fly, Game of Thrones,
Mhm.
I'm like, wow, but I'm like, amazing VFX. And
Mm.
you see gore, you see blood, and you're like, amazing makeup. So I think so you sort of lose that. And I think definitely with horror films, I was in my growing up years, I was like, dude, I know how this happens. I did Makri. So in maybe in that sense, yes, because you're technically so aware, it becomes very unenchanting.
Mm.
It's not, you become aware of things. But I
Sure.
think I was very grounded by my parents at home. But as I remember, when I won the National Film Awards, and the same year in school, I won Elocution Award. I
Wow.
got my second prize for elocution competition, and they placed both the certificates right next to each other.
Wow. Wow. What
So
a
there was
favorite
no
child you
difference.
are.
Yeah, thank you. So no, no, no. I was a very, very okay student. I was a very good student. I used to not score a lot. I was a good student. I think there's a difference. When people say I was not a very good student, people think it's related to your mark sheet. But I think mark sheet has nothing to do with you as a student. I was a good student. I used to not score very well. So having said that, no, but parents kept me very grounded. So, I had very normal childhood. I used to go out as friends,
Hmm.
hang out. Of course, there were few who'd recognize me, and, some friends wouldn't talk to me, or some would just be overtly nice to me and all of that. But I still have my school friends who know me before Makdee. So I've mostly lived a very normal life, and I lead a really, really private life. I love being by myself, low profile, so I'm happy.
Well, yeah, I mean that's very heartening to know. And I think, when we talk about the characters you've done, and I think, I one of the first questions I asked you was actually about the bebakness of, freedom of expression and all that. And I think if you think about it as well, you've kind of grown up, I think, seeing a versatile range of femininity, I think, in the films and the TV shows that you've done. I mean, even if we think about, like, you doing the infamous Ekta Kapoor K-word serials back in the day, to then obviously doing Array on Netflix. Obviously now you've obviously done Jubilee and so many other titles as well.
Hmm.
How has that also perhaps again impacted? I think this might be a good follow-up to the first response you gave about how people view feminine characters nowadays. But how do you think that's also kind of rubbed off on you, especially when you've observed this different
Hmm.
shades of them in your career?
Yes, of course, it is. As a woman, it's very important for me that I represent women correctly. And that does not mean they're pious and they are sanitized characters. I mean correctly, appropriately as they are. So for me, if I'm playing Maggie in Ray, is as important as playing Ratna in Jubilee, or playing a feisty journalist in Tashkent Files who's fighting, or playing somebody who has the shades of grey in Serious Men.
Hmm. Yeah.
Anuja was quite grey. My character in Criminal Justice was pretty
Oh
grey.
yeah, yeah.
She was quite grey. And even when I played Nandini in Chandra Nandini in Ekta Kapoor's prime time historical show, it was a costume drama. She's a princess warrior, with a sword in hand and horse riding. So yes, that was one of the reasons why I took up that show, because it was a great experience. It lot of Hindi dialogues and long Hindi monologues, and playing a princess warrior and all of that. And it's not just another TV show where it's not as defined as a woman's character should be. So yes, I do take that responsibility as an actor, as a woman, to represent in the best interest that I can. Again, that does not mean that tomorrow, if I have to play a negative role, a woman who's negative, I won't play it. I'll definitely play it, because that is also how women are.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's also, but it has to be justified. It has to be, it's like uh, I need to believe in it. I need to at least believe in that story or the person that I'm playing. That even if she's wrong, she's what she's doing is her choice, and she has that freedom to do so. So yeah, how do I see the change? I think definitely the writing has changed a lot in the industry. The way characters are written in general, not just female characters, but there's this thing about that female characters, or strong female characters, is a recent phenomena. It's not. In female characters in Indian cinema have been written and presented well since the 1930s. If you watch 1936 film Achut Kanya, or if you watch Sujata and Bandini by Bimal Roy, or if you watch Devi by Satyajit Ray, if you watch Shyam Benegal films, you watch
Mahanagar as
Ankur,
well. Yeah.
Mahanagar, Aarti in Mahanagar is so amazing. And if even Oppo trilogy, or if you watch Mrinal Sen films, Ek Din Prati Din, or if you watch Shyam Benegal films, these are all male filmmakers, male directors, such brilliantly written female characters. Rituparna Ghosh's films, all his female characters are so well written, so contoured, so defined, so layered. So I don't think it's a recent phenomena, but yes, with the OTT, it's no more hero heroine, bhai band friends.
Sure.
You do have characters that sort of have a backstory, that have an arc, that have their person of their own. They're not sort of driven by the other characters. They're driving by themselves. So I
I
think it's also the writing in the industry because of OTT that's changed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, as you rightly mentioned, conviction is so important, as well. And,
Hmm.
no matter what field you are in life. But I'm glad you mentioned the evolving times, especially the influx of OTT and exposure of world cinema, awareness of us within ourselves as well. Even as India as a country, I think is going through that very well right now. And I'm
Hmm.
glad that it's happening. But I think, when it comes to um Hindi cinema in particular, I feel like what's happening now, especially when actors who are splendid at their craft, but unfortunately, because they never really fitted into a convention or a box, the whole, like the fact that we even have an archetypal hero or heroine is something which
Hmm.
really highlights the issues and the types of conditioning that we've kind of done ourselves, you know?
Hmm.
So tell me, in that sense, do you kind of feel like confident now of sort of working in an industry like this now, especially when, there are no conditions that are typical as much as they used to be?
I've always been confident of that, but I'll tell you what have I been. I've become more confident of. I'm very confident of aging now because female actors in India, they don't grow after 25. And if you're over 25, you're 30. Earlier, it used to be, you're put into bhabhi roles and you're put into, some didi roles or lawyers or I don't know what. But if you see today, Nina Gupta's and the Shefali Shahs and even Madhuri Dixit, the way she's reinvented herself on OTT, and so many other actors who are doing that. There's Amrita Subhash, there's Tilotoma. All these, they are aging so gracefully. And it's so amazing to watch these actors because you always thought, even Dimple Kapadia, what she did in Pathan was also amazing. I
Yeah,
thought that was fantastic.
that's
For Shah Rukh Khan to call somebody ma'am on screen, it's a big deal. Like
actually
it's
true.
not about Shah Rukh Khan calling somebody man, but ma'am, but it's like, you expect an action hero, an action film heroine and female characters to be limited. But then you put a Dimple Kapadia there, who's sort of the head of the division or whatever that thing, and that's amazing.
Hmm,
Even that is evolving. Even that is amazing. So
yeah.
I think all these women have sort of at least given actors like me a lot of strength and a lot of faith and confidence to age gracefully. That there are characters being written for ages and faces across, and there's no problem. I'll be honest with you, Anuj. There's no harm in stereotypical hero heroine films as well.
Oh, hmm,
It should coexist.
bilkul.
One, it has to coexist. Theater has to coexist, OTT has to coexist, documentary cinema, independent cinema, big budget films, they all have to coexist, they all have to do well. So as long as that is happening, and then it's fine. I'm as I said, I say, I when I watched that scene from Jamshed where he says, we decide the parameters of success for ourselves. I'm like, yeah, that's it. ये मेरे दिल की बात बोल रहा है.
एब्सोल्युटली बट आई थिंक अगेन मैं इंडिया के बारे में बात कर रहा था और मुझे बहुत खुशी है कि हम इस मुकाम तक पहुंच चुके हैं कि हम चाहे एक तेलुगु फिल्म हो या हिंदी फिल्म हो गुजराती फिल्म मलयालम फिल्म हो पंजाबी फिल्म हो अब हम कॉन्फिडेंट हो चुके हैं कि हम इंडियन सिनेमा को एक एक जुट में देख सके and I
Right.
think we are very proud of this fact as well. I think for you as well, because you've worked in Telugu films as well as Tamil, right? And
Yeah.
Bengali film as well you've done.
Right.
So the fact that, obviously the landscape there is so fascinating to watch and explore. I mean, the sort of stardom
Mm.
that the actors there have. So that when you kind of worked in a lot of like non-Hindi movies, what did that teach you a lot about the cultural roots, especially? Because I feel that's one thing that I found, especially in the South films, they're very culturally rooted a lot.
Right. Um, So I did a couple of South Indian films, and I did one Bangla film in 2007. And that was a very, very long time ago. I've predominantly done Hindi language series and films. But I can tell you, as an audience, more than what I remember from back then when I did a couple of few films. Yes, it's um I think what I remember from the set was they all speak in the same language. There's a lot of pride in the language and the culture. Like even if you watch something like a Kantara, or
Hmm.
you watch the Malayalam films, they're just so rooted. They're so simple, and they're just like a Kumbalangi Nights, or if you watch The Great Indian Kitchen, amazing films. They're just like a one single thread story that is set very much in a neighborhood that you can imagine the writer director must have grown up in.
Hmm.
And he's actually just put that, no extra shots, no extra it's very aesthetic, it's beautiful, but he's not seeking visual perfections. There are no how do I say it, it's not it's as it is. It's they've crossed
Authentic. Yeah.
naturalism and realism. They've sort of blurred the lines, so that's very interesting.
Yeah, that is very, very fascinating. But look, I think going forward, you've explored a vast variety of genres, a vast variety of stories, actors, directors, the whole shebang. But what do you think now is gonna get you going? I mean, what are you quite keen and excited on exploring particularly?
um I think I'm very excited to see the kind of work that's going to come my way now, and the kind of choices I make now. So I'm really excited about that. Um, I don't know if I want to direct immediately, but I do know that I want to direct more. So I'm also writing. I'm now not writing, taking 5 years to finish a script. That 2018 में story लिखा, 2020 में 20 में lockdown हुआ तो screenplay लिखा, 2023 it's made. Now if I have to make something, I want to be more, at it,
Yeah.
and make time for it. But yeah, otherwise, free flowing really, Anuj. I love free flowing and taking each day as it comes, because you really can't decide, and you have to really learn to respond. So I usually respond to days.
Right.
I don't really decide too much. I don't think people should have too many goals, because I think goals sort of restrict you. I think yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
my answers are so boring. All your questions are so nice, and all my answers are like so like.
No, no, no. It's okay. It's real. It's real. And I think that's what we're all about. And I think it's so wonderful. But no, Shweta, look, it's been such a pleasure to have you on Film Shilmy.
Thank
Really, I think we're
you.
so fortunate that we get to, speak with such wonderful actors and artists. So thank you so much for supporting us and also coming on board. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Shweta. Bye.